Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. I'm Aoife from the NHS Finance Central team. I'm just going to be giving you guys an update on stuff that's going on, and also, can someone put themselves on mute? Thank you. And I'm also going to be giving you a development program breakdown. So I don't have too much to update on today, just a couple of things. So the staff survey results have now been published on the website for finance teams. The promotion, recruitment and retention strategy is being launched next week, so keep an eye out for that, and I also pop a link in the chat for that. The next accreditation deadline is on the 31st of May. In line with this, we recently ran an Are You Ready for Level 2 accreditation event. So this may be useful for anyone to watch back if they're planning on applying for Level 2 in the near future. The deadline for the Insights Placement Scheme is next Friday. Cohort 8 of innovations has just been published on our website today. There are 26 new innovations for everyone to read through. And finally, there is also now an application guide for the EVO framework, which I'll pop in the chat after this, if anyone would like to have a look through that guide. Just in terms of upcoming events, we have an innovation showcase session focusing on sustainable efficiency tracker on Thursday the 16th of May. We have a Proud to be Ops session, which is an introduction to NHS finance series. We'll have a few of these throughout the year. This one's taking place on Wednesday the 22nd of May. We have a software skills session on transforming NHS finance data through Power Automate and Power BI taking place on Wednesday the 5th of June. We have our next Demystifying NHS Finance event on Tuesday the 18th of June. We have an inclusion showcase session, which is focusing on how setting up a disability staff network on Wednesday, 26th of June. And we also have a face showcase session where someone's coming along from Barts Health, and they will be showcasing a tool to support clinicians and managers. This is taking place on Wednesday, the 26th of June. I'll pop a link to our events page in the chat as well, so you can have a look at any of these events and register for them, or have a look. We have loads of events planned a bit later down the line as well, so you can have a scan through those. Just in terms of development program breakdown, I'm just going to cover a few, and then I was planning on sending around a document with more detail on each of the programs, just so I don't take up too much time today. So I'm just going to focus on some of our main ones that are the most popular. So our Career Shapers program, this is for bands 2 to 4 staff. Career Shapers provides a structured approach to develop the non-technical skills needed for progress. It also offers a safe space for participants to connect with others in similar positions and share experiences and challenges faced. The programme is a fantastic opportunity for individuals in the early stages of their careers to increase confidence, meet like-minded people, and establish strong networks across NHS finance. The applications for this are actually still open, and this closes on the 31st of May. Going on to Career Progressors Development Programme, this is for bands 5 to 7 finance professionals to develop their leadership skills, create development plans, and improve their interview and application techniques. Applications for 2024 have now been closed, but you can apply for the next cohort, and that opens January 2025. Our Breaking Diversity Barriers programme is aimed at staff from protected groups that are underrepresented. I can't say it. Underrepresented at director level in the NHS. This can include people from diverse ethnic backgrounds, female staff, LGBTQIA+, and those living with a disability. Applications for this will be open throughout September each year. And the last one I'm going to cover is our Going Beyond Development programme. The programme is aimed at staff working at band 8A and above, and wish to further their professional development with a view to progress their career. Applications will be open throughout June each year. I would also like to know that these are all free. And yes, I will send around a more detailed document with our other development programs as well, just with a bit more information, but I don't want to take up too much time today. But
That's
that's it from
okay.
me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Now, guys, I think it's really, really important that we recognise that given our financial position, there's a lot of training development opportunities out there. And I think it's really important that we kind of share that where we can across the patch. There's been a big push to keep this funding and to keep it there because we recognise that we do need to be supported. And actually, if we compare ourselves to other groups in the NHS, we don't get as much support as some of them do. So, I can only beg that you share with your teams, you go onto the websites. You have a look at the opportunities that are out there. You link them into people's personal professional development plans and see what we can do to make sure, we fill these places. I know it's a difficult time right now. I know we've had, I think the word is apathy around finance teams because of all the other pressures. But I think it's really important that we take these places up. Anyone want to comment on any of that they've heard so far? Is it just going to be a monologue of Karen today and the speakers? Yeah. Okay. Where are we with level 2 applications then? Does anybody need any help? Okay, so I said this at the last meeting. I am now an assessor, and there's quite a few other people that are also assessors, and I've done a few recently, and I'm quite happy to help organisations, with bits. We've got Roland in London. So Roland is also another source that can help us with bits and pieces that we're missing and just give us some guidance on where we are moving forward. I know it's interesting actually. I'm sure it wasn't a kind of a directive that every London organisation should have their FFF level 2 accreditation by December. Do you all know that? You do? Okay. Okay. Some nods. Brilliant. You're listening. So I think it's really important then. If I'm honest with you, I don't think we're all going to make it. Okay. I know that. I know we're not all going to make it, but we're all going to have a bloody good attempt at trying to get to where we should be. All right. I think is the honest thing. So we need to be honest with ourselves, even though it was needed. So I think we need to be honest and we need to report back where we're struggling. Anne.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was on the course at 1HS course on Are You FF2 Ready that Charlie talked about earlier on that was run last. Was it Charlie? Sorry. No, it wasn't Charlie. It was the other lovely lady. That's the one. I couldn't pronounce her name. I apologise. It was really good. We got some really good insight from it here at Barts as to what we're going to be doing. But yeah, just looking at that December deadline, it's really going to be pushing it to achieve that. We're looking more at getting our application in March of next year because in order to have that demonstrable evidence, we're just not going to be doing it, but we'll certainly be able to demonstrate that we're making good headway.
Yeah,
colleague Vicky's got a hand up.
And I think that's probably going to be good enough because, as I said, this is the London region is the only region where they've kind of mandated it because of some of the issues we're going on with London. So I think as long as we're demonstrating that we're working towards, because there was a load of people that should have put their application in this month and they've deferred because they've recognised it's a huge amount of work that needs to be done. Hi, Vicky.
Hi. I just think our experience at Imperial, I mean, it's not helped by we're undergoing a restructure, but you do need quite a lot of time to dedicate to it. But actually, when you then start to look through the the criteria you need to meet, you do realise actually it's not as bad as you thought, and you actually do a lot of these things already. I think what helped us was definitely Roland and going through with him a sort of a draft of where we thought we were at and what gaps we thought we were missing. He can share policies and like apprenticeship policies or other policies that he's got from other trusts. That was really helpful. So you don't have to start again. You can just tweak somebody else's. And I think what helps is an action plan. So you know actually with timescales what you need to achieve, what gaps you've got. But I think you do need support from your senior leadership team and actually get that sort of that buy-in and make sure it's not you doing it by yourself, that there's a few of you doing it because it is quite a lot. And we've presented a couple of times to when we've done our all staff away days to tell them it's coming, what it involves, why it's important. So I think for them when they get interviewed, they're aware of it and they can kind of know why it's important, etc. And hopefully they'll get involved as well.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Vicky. I think one of the things that people seem to think is that you have to have everyone studying and learning, and that's not the whole idea of the assessment. No. The assessment is to make sure that people are fully aware of what's available to them. Okay, I think the only mandated thing at level 2 is that there should be an apprentice. That's one of the things they've mandated. You need to have apprentices. If you haven't got those, that becomes an issue for level 2. Simon. Hi.
Thanks, Karen. Many of the things that you and Vicky just set out clearly resonate here. We were going to be on the April process, I think, Charlie, if I'm right, but we kind of delayed it for a couple of months, mainly because the team was significantly under pressure with the year end and the South East London position. We wanted to focus on that. But what it has done is put us in a good place for the next batch, because we only had about 3 areas that we really need to remedy. But by extending our application for a few months, we are now confident, I think.
Brilliant.
Johannes, I know, is on the call. Catherine is on the call. We will definitely put our application in for the next batch for level 2. I suffer from the fact that this is going to be the second organization that I'm having to do level 2. So
Never mind.
that's fine. I've also done the Chelsea and Westminster assessment in the last batch, so that's fine.
Okay.
So I think it's a good thing to have a target for London, so that we all aim to be a level 2, in the sense that everybody knows that if you go to a level 2 organization, there are minimum standards in training and development to expect from that organization. So I think it's a good drive.
Absolutely. Vicky, you want to add something else to that?
Yeah, I think it was just on Simon's point, actually. It's better to delay it. So we've delayed it twice for 2 different reasons. But and the advice we've been given, particularly from Roland, is you won't pass if actually you've just implemented things like last week just to meet the criteria. You need to provide evidence you've actually been you've had apprentices in a policy in place for a while. So I think that for us was like valuable feedback, that you need to have these things embedded in the organisation for a while and prove you've got evidence of how things have gone, you're not just ticking a box. And I think that's where some people have got, they've been deferred then to the next sort of review time.
Sorry, go on, Sam.
I was just going to say, Vicky, you said something that may just have been lost, which is having a team for this. This is not a one-person job.
No, it isn't.
You need a team, a working group on this. Otherwise, it just becomes overwhelming.
100% agree. So I've been assessing, I've done quite a few in London and a few outside London. And I think the biggest thing is to make sure there is a team. Okay, I will say this, and I keep saying this, please don't reinvent the wheel. I'm happy to give up any of my policies. I'll always say, can I look at yours, just in case you've got something that we haven't thought of. But let's share, guys. I think, the good old days where the organisations are against each other for whatever reason are long gone, where we are one NHS Finance, right? There's some really great examples of best practice policies out there. There's stuff that's won awards, so I just think we take it and we tweak it to whatever our local policy agreement is. We don't need to be creating the documentation from scratch, but we do need to work on the implementation. I think it's really important. We, as Vicky and Simon has said, we don't implement things 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, because that isn't demonstration, that's ticking the box. Okay, and the whole idea of the level 2 assessment is to make sure that things have been in place for a while. The other thing that I've noticed, which I thought was really good, and you've got to be brave to do that. So obviously at level 2, they interview the external stakeholders, budget managers and stuff. And one organisation actually brought one that hated finance. And what was really interesting about that, they said that they respected and they understood completely what the issues are, but they didn't agree with them. And I think that's okay, right? Not everyone's going to like what finance does. Everyone's not going to like the processes that were in place. But the whole idea of the assessment is to demonstrate awareness and understanding of the function, and why we are doing what we're doing, and all the rest of it. It's not necessarily to agree. Likewise, as people that work in finance, the whole idea there is not to, we can't force people. If they don't want to study, they don't have to study, but they need to be aware of the opportunities that are available for them. Because traditionally, we always spent our time in management accounts and we forget all the other areas. We forget financial control. They might just need some customer-facing exams, customer services, sessions and stuff. They don't want to be an accountant, and there's no reason why we can't offer something for everybody. And I think that's what this program's about. Yeah. So if you are stuck, please, reach out to me, and if I can't help you, I can there's a team of people that are absolutely willing to help. Satiris has got Roland on retention for this, so he's a free resource. We just need to book him in if you're almost there, and even if you're not there, he'll have a really honest conversation with you about what you need to do. All right, but do not do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. It's just not possible. Okay, you need to get the buy-in. And the other thing I'll add before we move on is I know for a fact that not all of our director of finances are equal. Okay, so I already know that some of them are not necessarily, it might be lip service and stuff, but there is a senior management team underneath in that. So sometimes it might not be the left person at the top, but it might be the senior management team as a whole that need to help promote this moving forward. Because if you haven't got their buy-in, it's going to be really hard for you guys. All right. Any other questions or anything like that on the accreditation? Yeah, Wendy. Hi.
Hi, Karen. Yeah,
Hi.
just actually sort of echoing. So we have had a situation where we've had sort of a round of going back for sort of additional information as part of our level 2 application. We did a lot of learning from other people who had sort of applied for their level 2 application and gone through the process. And we found that they might have had a couple of the standards that were in development or like being embedded, and they kind of got through the level 2. So I think we had a standard in that area. And it was sort of some of the robustness around our training plan, where we had all of the component parts, evidence around our training and information, but one of the key areas around not sort of asking or requesting for further information was around that. So it's just really to echo the standards of the standards, as Vicky was saying, it's about embedding, ensuring it is embedded, and don't rely on other people's experience. Learn from it, take the tools. There's some really good information, as you said, out there, but very much it's about the standards are there, they're embedded, and the development side is not about development to get there, development that you are there and you're continually improving.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said, Wendy. As I said, we do as an assessor on my, we do assess things like, who's been on courses, who's been out there, who's been developed, how do you bring that in? What are the lunch and learns? What are the learnings? So these are all things that we kind of already do anyway. And the only other advice I'd give you all before we move on, because we're going over time, believe it or not, is make sure you put it in a platform that is easy. Okay, so you've got the schedule, but you need to make sure your documentation. So I've seen 3 or 4 ways, but the one I like, there's a way that you can have a page on Teams that's just for the assessors to look at as well as the people, or there's another way where some people have given access to certain portals, but you need to make sure that your information is available and easy to look and easy to follow. So and remember, you've got to demonstrate level 1 as well. So even though you might have signed it all off, you have to show the evidence of level 1 as well as the evidence of level 2. Okay, so don't fall into that trap. Because the first question that will come in, especially if David's doing it, is, can I see all your level 1 and your level 1 evidence, please? All right, that's his first question. So that's now my first question, right? So you just need to make sure you've got all that stuff because you got it signed off. So you must have had the information to demonstrate that. But please remember, guys, there's resources out there. There's tons of people out there. And if for whatever reason we can't hit the London deadline, we just need to be very clear to our respective director of finance what the reason is and what the plan is moving forward. So let's be open and transparent about it. Anything else? So the resources are there. There's lots of stuff there for our people. They should be linking into our development, our appraisals and development needs for our team. There's tons of stuff, on NHS Finance, and we should be using it. And we should count ourselves lucky because we haven't cut anything, which is brilliant. Okay, so let's move on. Sorry we're late, Charlie. Talent management, over to you.
No problem at all. I'm just going to share some slides. Bear with me a second. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Great. So hopefully most of you will be aware of the talent management strategy by now, and some of you may have even attended the workshops delivered by 1NHS Finance earlier in the year. But as a recap, I'll just quickly run through some of the slides with you now, and then there is some time at the end for a bit more of a discussion as well. So as part of the 1NHS Finance engagement conversation back in 2021, feedback from the finance community showed the need for a more structured approach to talent management to support staff in regards to their development. A working group was formed, followed by a workshop session facilitated by KPMG, where a strategy was created and then launched at the Leadership Summit in July last year. And this has since been rolled out across the 7 regions. The co-created talent management vision is equitably cultivating everyone's best potential for the benefit of the NHS with talent management that leaves no one behind. And this is a thread that runs through the talent management strategy document as a whole. So it's recommended that if organisations are not part of the Leadership Academy Scope for Growth pilot, that the following model is adopted. The model structure was influenced by organisations that do this well, such as Coca-Cola. So One NHS Finance tried to keep it simple with the following approach and recognise that staff may be at 3 different categories in their career. They could be growing, but not in a rush to go anywhere, but always learning. They could be stretching, individuals that want to progress further, perhaps through a qualification or the next band level. And then those that want to accelerate and want to progress quickly and accelerate into a more senior role in the coming months. And then taking into consideration whether you are new in post, are you contributing at the right level, or are you an expert? So a governance and reporting structure following a top-down, bottom-up approach has been developed in consultation with senior leaders from the 7 regions, approved by the Finance Leadership Council. Senior buy-in and leadership are crucial for the success of this approach and aims to help address current workforce and recruitment challenges. This structure has been put in place to ensure that we are doing this fairly across the NHS, and those in senior leadership positions ensure they are providing the correct support to everyone to ensure all colleagues realise their potential to benefit not just themselves, but our teams and our organisations. And what this means is that our leaders have conversations in a positive way about where their staff are, what development they need, and what opportunities there are for them. And for these conversations to be had not just at an organisational level, but at an ICB level and at a regional level too. So we should be identifying if we have roles that are vulnerable, where there are risks, and how to support colleagues to move around so they don't get stuck in organisations where they can't develop further and we won't be able to cover vulnerable parts of our system. So the hope is that everyone that works in NHS Finance will have an annual talent conversation, providing everyone with the opportunity to have an in-depth, rounded, person-centred conversation that will help them to build energy, maximise engagement in their roles and future career. It should be separate from your appraisal, but can be part of the appraisal process. So we need to be clear that the conversation is about where do you want to get to, what are you good at, what would you like to try, and what experience can be provided to help develop you. So solely focused on you and your talent. So your manager will talk about how to best facilitate nurturing this talent. And then each CFO will have this conversation with their senior team to ensure they know what's going on with regards to their own internal talent pipeline, and the same at an ICB and regional level. And then the regional boards will then update on regional progress to the National Finance Academy, which will be fed back to the FLC. So what's really important is to ensure you are equipped to make this happen, and the people having these conversations with you are equipped as well. So One NHS Finance have provided a variety of support in addition to the strategy through templates, guidance and resources. And I'll be happy to share these slides with all the links included following the meeting. However, all the resources are available on the ONF website, and I can put a link in the chat to this too. But please remember that the finer details in the strategy and related resources are a guideline. Many of you are already running talent management processes in your organisations and systems, so we don't want to reinvent the wheel. The purpose of the strategy is to give you the tools to put some planning and structure in place to improve your processes and to ensure you as an individual are getting the opportunity to have these conversations about your development. Some of the key resources include the Talent Management How-To Guide. This includes step-by-step guidance, links to resources, and tools for both line managers and staff to navigate and get the most out of the talent conversations and processes. So I recommend everyone look through this, as it's a really handy document. And then there is the online self-assessment toolkit on the ONF website that allows staff to assess themselves against the NHS Finance technical and behavioural competencies to help identify what areas you need to develop further to become well experienced across all areas relevant to your current band level. And this can help for a basis for the talent conversations and also link in with your appraisal. So our next step is a region. So we are continuing with comms around the strategy and talent management for all staff, with the hope that all CFOs and senior leaders are raising awareness of this within their own organisations and taking it forward. We are also highlighting the great variety of resources available through One NHS Finance to support with facilitating these conversations. To note, One NHS Finance are looking to link this in with all 3 stages of the Towards Excellent Accreditation process from September to recognise where this is being done well and where there are gaps. It was decided at the January London Finance Development meeting to utilise existing infrastructure within London to implement the strategy across the region. Therefore, each of the London talent boards are deciding how to integrate this process into their existing talent management practices within their respective systems. And the leads did meet recently, and they decided that this will be an organisational-led process, that all organisations will utilise the appraisal PDP process as a minimum to have talent conversations and will be responsible for the fairness and transparency of this process. Individuals will self-assess and put themselves forward for training, development and intervention opportunities. And lastly, local ICB finance talent boards be responsible for collecting data, signposting candidates and reporting to the London Finance Development Board. So as mentioned, a regional report is due at the start of June, and I'll be working with Elise to pull this information together and highlight any challenges and further support needed. As mentioned, I recommend taking a look at the strategy and reviewing the toolkit and other resources, and have a think about your own talent management and where you want to develop and progress. So that's it from me. I'm happy to take any comments, or if anybody wants to share any progress or challenges you're facing within your organisations, it will be really helpful to hear, as we want to make sure this is benefiting you and your organisations. So we'd appreciate any feedback.
Okay, thank you. Simon, hand up straight away.
Yeah, no, this is really exciting, mainly because it's quite timely for us. We just received the results of the last staff survey, and this is clearly an area that we need to focus on at GSDT. So last week, I can't remember which day, others may be able to remind me. Catherine, when did we have the last staff brief? We made a big launch on this. So when was it?
Yeah, last week.
Friday. Yeah. So we had a big launch on this, and I think going back to the points you made earlier, Charlie, we are linking this to the appraisals process just in the interest of time, rather than have two sets of conversations. And actually, talent management should form a key part of one's appraisal anyway. So we're making sure that people use the toolkit, undertake their own self-assessment. They don't necessarily have to share it. They want to use it as a framework for the conversation. And then we've set a deadline for end of June for everyone to have completed it. And that's a monumental ask. It's a large team. You're talking 200 to 400 people. So it's not an easy thing to accomplish by that date. We need to figure out as a senior management team how we collate some of the insights from that volume of staff to have a coherent picture that we paint in front of our CFO, which hopefully should make its way back to the ICB and part of the talent management system for South East London. That's the bit that I think we need some help and guidance. How do we synthesize the output from all these conversations, you're talking hundreds of them, into some kind of dashboard that I can look at and understand the totality of the picture. I haven't yet figured it out, but I think we will focus on having the talent management conversations happening. But the next stage of having a good look and picture of what's happening within the department is the thing that at the moment I kind of struggle with, because it needs to make sense as we aggregate upwards to a system level and perhaps to a regional level. And given you have a regional lens, I'm suspecting that you've already sorted this out. So anything you can share with us, then we can see how we're going to synthesize. That's the bit that I think we need some help with. But the actual conversations will happen. I know people will take this seriously. It's in their own interest. Everyone is talented. I think as soon as you hear talent management, people seem to think, oh, they're looking for some special colleagues of ours. Where are they? It's not that. This is everyone. And it's in our interest to get this done.
Absolutely. Johannes.
Hi, yeah, just following on what Simon's saying. Yeah, I think whether it's a dashboard or kind of a report template, or indeed what we're trying to do here is basically kind of come together with the CFO and the S&T to actually kind of review progress, and like if there's a structure or an agenda kind of way of kind of going through it. I mean, sitting down and kind of asking each of the team leaders to kind of present is one way of doing it, but maybe there's a better way of doing it. So any kind of templates on that would be helpful. The reason I actually raised my hand was a slightly different one. I am sat in finance. I am financially qualified, but I am a very non-finance person. And actually the team that I run is non-traditional finance. We kind of straddle a little bit of ops, a little bit of workforce. We kind of do productivity, a little bit of improvement. I guess a lot of the material that I see is kind of bog standard finance, if that makes sense. Now you can kind of modify it certainly kind of the self-assessment tool, for example, you know, the values and some of the domains are kind of applicable regardless. But some of the finance stuff is pretty bog standard. I guess my question is, increasingly as kind of analytics and all that stuff and kind of trying to get on top of improvement and financial improvement and turnaround and productivity, as those roles start straddling the traditional ops route and the traditional SF or kind of finance route, is there any thinking going on in terms of what happens to people who are straddling data analytics, finance, and ops? Because that is kind of a new breed that is developing, I think. And sorry, maybe I'm blowing this meeting out of proportion, but just
no, you're
what people
not.
are thinking.
Absolutely not. So before those guys are, you know, so in London, we already have 2 other groups, okay? So, and they're all led by Satira. So we've got one for IT and we've got one for procurement. What you're talking about, I think, Johannes, is more transformation. It's where it's a multidisciplinary team that are looking at all sorts of different things within that team. And I think there is a lot out there. And you're right, there is an element of finance, but it's kind of transitioning to that multidisciplinary, get me tongue out, disciplinary team, as, for example, a BA would do working in the huge acute trust. I believe, before you all answer, that it's really, really important that we embrace those new ways of working. You know, I think one of the things that I would say as a qualified accountant of only 2 years, because I'm only 29, is that I like the apprenticeships, because with the apprenticeships, they kind of teach you not just how to pass exams, which is how I was taught, but also leadership, learning. They do lots of reflective statements and stuff. And actually, they're going to be better rounded accountants than probably my generation was, because we just pass failed, right? That was it. And, you know, so I think there probably is some stuff out there already. It might not be labelled the way that you want it to be labelled, but it's definitely 100% there. I think we just have to look for it, and maybe that's something we can work on moving forward to make sure it's more open and accessible and people are very clear about what it is. So let's answer all the questions, and we'll go back to the original thing around the one other thing I want to say on talent management before I go on my question, before I forget, which is, can we remember, Charlie and team, that the bigger organisations like myself in our sector have a responsibility for the smaller organisations? And, you know, one of the things that I'm always being told about, and we try and do it in NCL, is to make sure that whatever we do in our trust, we kind of roll it out to the smaller organisations before us. So, and what I mean by that is, you know, our finance department's 200 plus, right? The organisation up the road, there might be 10 of them, right? So I just think that we need to find a way in London to make sure that what we're doing is open and equitable to all, regardless of where they come from, because you can see those, you know, those massive gaps in opportunities. I think it's really important that whatever we do for talent management, we make sure we do it across. So as an example, in NCL, what we used to do is in NCL, if anybody wanted to go on secondment and stuff, nobody could say no. You know, and that's what we did. Nobody could say no. It's caused us problems, but it was about making sure we gave people in our sector that opportunity. We couldn't do it across London, otherwise we'd have no staff. But it's just thinking of better ways that we can actually make it accessible and not hang on to people because they're great at their job and actually stop their development and their talent and stopping them from moving on. And it's those challenges that we're struggling with at the moment, really. Right, I'll go to the question. So off to you first, Simon.
I suggested we do something in GST, and I think, Karen, you just hinted at the solution. So the larger organizations will have the opportunity for these teams that are quite unique and kind of new to the traditional finance departments. So we've allowed for variations. So where things are quite in the toolkit, quite finance focused, those teams can vary those elements and say, okay, this is what really applies to me in my particular role. Hopefully what that will do is allow us to bring in new parameters that we can then share with other organizations. Say, look, if you have these kind of commercial oriented staff or transformation oriented staff who are not traditional finance in the toolkit, please advance it to allow for these kinds of metrics in their own assessment. So hopefully this is the first year that we do it. And after this year, we will try to extract those new variations that people have put in the toolkit in their self-assessment to inform how we work with our fellow wider directorate staff groups who are probably not your chartered accountants or pure finance staff, but are integral to the operations of the finance teams.
Okay, thank you. Sonal, sorry. We can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. So yeah, it's just to share a little bit. So I think for us, we have, as much as like I've circulated a bit around the SEL talent management and what's it all about, we have set up also a lunch and learn. I guess one to at least promote, because I think, as Simon said as well, we've kind of for ease of time, we've incorporated a bit with the appraisal process. And one of the documents that is really helpful is that appraisal versus talent management document that you've put together, which I think is really beneficial for everyone. But as opposed to just circulating documents, having a group of people actually presenting and showcasing to the rest of our department what it's all about and what they kind of need to help promote and what kinds of conversations they need to have has really helped. But where Simon and Johannes, I'm echoing what they've said in terms of how that, once we've had those discussions, how that information is actually collated and viewed and the oversight upon it, but also having people in the department that not necessarily strictly finance only, and how they can be perhaps incorporated more into some of these talent management discussions and what we can do. So it's really helpful, sorry, for everyone to share that on what they're doing and what we could do moving forward in terms of trying to collate that information and also have the overarching view. And if there is any templates or anything, that would be really helpful also. So yeah, just to share that. But thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Vicky.
It was just following on from the earlier comment about I suppose under the finance banner, we've got our contracts commissioning service development team. So the traditional sort of commissioning with NHS London and what was CCGs. And they always do comment that, you know, I circulate as staff development lead, all the opportunities. Obviously, they're very finance focused. They always make the comment of they're not qualified accountants. So it is, they're still included in our finance numbers and still included, I suppose, under that talent management. But it is, and I know some organisations have procurement under them, etc. We don't anymore, but it is thinking about how we address their needs as well. And I know, Karen, you said there's other things out there, but I think we've all probably got different types of departments under us.
No, absolutely, you're right. But what Satiris has set up is there's definitely one for IT, because IT is traditionally a function that's set in finance. There's definitely one for procurement. And I just think, you know, so I would, what Johanna said earlier on, I would call that transformation. I don't know if that's the right word, because it's kind of multidisciplinary people that's come together to see if they can transform. There is a lot of stuff going on. So within our, again, we're a massive trust, so we have got some stuff on that, and I'm sure we can, you know, build that and share some more, you know, share out there what we're doing. I'm not saying it's right, but we are doing something about it, because our HR team are very strong around talent management and making sure everyone's got equal opportunities and they'll be given a chance to do what they need to do. So it kind of, it's not just for, you know, it includes finance as well, but I think there is something we need to do there to make sure that we are equal, because we're not equal. I know that bigger trusts just have better opportunities than smaller organisations. It's like, what can we do to support them and not exclude them? And maybe it's too big to look at it in London as a London thing, but maybe as a regional thing, because there's a big organisation in every single region, right? So maybe they kind of take the lead to help and support some of the other organisations that struggle, because if they do have one or two people out for secondment, that's it. It's all over, right? So maybe, you know, we do swaps, we do all sorts of things that we can, you know, some creative things just to give people opportunities. So it's something that we need to think about moving forward. Anything else? That was a really good discussion on talent management. Oh yes. Hello. Is it Marjan? Marjan? I got that right? Vaughn? Ooh. Changed her mind. Okay, fine. Is there any other questions on talent management then? No? Okay, so moving swiftly on then. So this was something that I wanted to have a discussion about to see how you're all working. And I'm going to use, obviously, Chatham House rules. I'm going to use my organisation just to kick it off, okay? And this is all about resilience and about hybrid working. So one of the things that we're suffering from in our organisation, you know, and it must, I'm hoping it's the same in yours. We have individuals that want to come in every day, individuals that don't want to come in at all. We limited space because obviously finance wasn't deemed as an important organisation until it's important. So, you know, we moved from a place where finance had 200 desks for 200 staff. Now we've got 34 that we're fighting for, that we have to book in advance too. And then the resilience. So we're having lots of issues where we've got, if you like, ops managers and other managers now believe they're all qualified accountants. They can all make right decisions. They can all do what they want to do. And it's about how do we bring that resilience in, and what do you all think we need to do as a team to embrace hybrid working, to make sure it's working well. And the reason why I personally don't believe it's working well is that if you're established and you're very good in your role, you will do very well working from home. But if you're a young person, it's your first job in finance, so you're going to suffer because you're not learning, you're not seeing those, if you like, those corridor conversations or by the desk conversations and learning how people manage and deal with things. You're kind of on a monitor like we are at the moment. So what do you all think about, let's start with hybrid working. Do you think it's working well for you guys? Are you happy with it? Do you have the same issues with the older people wanting to stay at home, the younger ones wanting to stay at home and the older ones? What are your challenges at the moment, Simon?
I think
honest Chatham House rules.
Yeah.
Secrets.
I'm quite passionate about this, and I think we are courting with disaster with this. It's only going to be a matter of time before this catches up with the profession and our sector in healthcare. So yesterday and today, for example, we have this nursing and midwifery thank you. So any areas in our 5 hospitals, any pocket there are nurses, we go out there to say thank you and give them some fruits and chocolate and other things. And for some of them, this is the first time they've seen someone from finance in about 3-4 years. That's shocking. That's a poor reflection on me and the community that we are all part of. And I think what we're doing to the next generation of finance people working in NHS is actually turning them into to be less impactful than many of us who have had years and years in this industry and have accomplished ourselves and have had impact, had this job satisfaction and making an impact on the ground. So I think for the new ones who are joining finance in NHS, they probably don't understand the business very well, and don't have a chance to rectify that if we continue in the way that we're working in. I think as a start, and actually, Karen, this conversation will happen next week as well at the London Deputies meeting. There's an agenda item there. There's a bit of a breaking news, but it will be on the agenda for them as well. We need to come to a realization that for financial management, where you actually need to partner with the business, they need to be much more on the ground in the business to be effective. Towards the tail end of last financial year, as a senior management team, we took the decision to bring back everyone from financial management into the office all at the same time over a period of time, because there were obvious gaps. I'll just be polite, gaps, but there were much more fundamental issues going in there that we needed to address head on. So I just think we need to be really careful if we continue in this way for a long period of time, especially in the way the finances are, being constrained more and more. Our role in the business has become much more important. The more we stay at home or elsewhere, the more problems we're going to cause. So I think as a start, those business partnering roles need to be much more on the ground. So in short, the answer to your question, Karen, is that it is not working. And what it will take is for something to break before we revert back into solve the problem. And I think for the smarter organizations, smarter teams, they'll start taking preventative steps to remedy the problem before it gets too acute. For financial operations and much more the back office functions, I can see a case to be made to say, actually, if you're constrained for space, especially in a London site where space is a premium, you want to use that for clinical activity, perhaps you can vary the rules to say if you're not in a business partnering role, perhaps more remote working. But I don't think it is effective to have business partners, and I mean financial management in that sense, and much of the senior roles being remote. Otherwise, to be frank, we could all tomorrow be out of a job, and this entire profession could be outsourced to Southeast Asia and save a lot of money.
Absolutely. Now, so the only challenging thing I'll say before I move on to you, Johannes, is that, I insist that all the young people come in every day and work, because a lot of them are working from their bedrooms and stuff. And what I've learned, especially with the apprentices, is that actually when they come in every day, they get to pick up things a lot easier. So when they move on to financial management, which is where they all say they want to be until they get there, they've actually got some really good groundings and a good understanding. So I believe half what you're saying. There was a level of disservice going on, and I think we're being a bit selfish. And also to note, London is the only region that has all their staff hybrid working. A lot of the organisations outside London went back to work years ago, and I know there's issues with space, but we have arrangements with the local councils that have got empty buildings, and I just wonder, what are our estates people doing to ensure we get back into the office if that's what we want to do. I know finance directors do not agree. Some of them want to stay at home, some of them want to come in, but we need to think of the bigger picture, not just, if you like, and the long term and longevity of all of this stuff we need to think about. Anyway, over to you. That's my Johannes, what would you like to say?
Don't want to be too controversial here. I think.
Go for it.
I mean, listen. I come in 3 days a week. My team comes in two times a week, or twice a week. I don't think we do virtual working very well. And I think virtual working is new to a lot of us, and hybrid working. I think we kind of know how we used to do the on-site stuff, right? And we're kind of, you almost can't avoid people because you're in the same office, so it's almost easy to learn from each other. But the virtual working, I think it just requires a bit more active thinking around how you make that work properly and what the policies are in place, right? So I've built brand new teams virtually, but that required, daily check-ins and, like virtual fun times and all that stuff, right? But it required, rather than saying at the end of the day, let's go to the pub, you schedule, 11 o'clock meeting and you do, like fun quizzes or whatever, right? So you kind of have to think about it more creatively. The only thing I would just say is I shadowed a finance team in Shell a couple of years ago, and Shell that team had folks across the world, right? And they had time zones to deal with and all that stuff. And they I think met once a year in person. Otherwise, it was all online and virtual. But they were very clear as to what the rules of the game were, both in terms of engaging with the business and being in the business and talking to each other and engaging with each other. I don't think we really have figured out what the rules of the game are for virtual working or hybrid working. And we keep trying to encourage people to work as if they're in the office, but work it from home. And I don't think that works. I think the rules for working from home or being a virtual worker are very different to the rules of the folks who are in the office. And maybe there is a generational thing there as well, but I think the games are very different and you need to treat them differently. And I don't think we've really thought that through or cracked it. There you go. Okay. My 2 cents.
Yeah. No, absolutely worth every penny. Vicky?
I was just picking up on some of Simon's points and made me think, and particularly I was at the start of the year on one of the development courses, and a lot of we're all different. All the trusts have got different rules, and so I suppose, Simon, I'm quite surprised that your guys weren't in until whenever it was, because we've been coming in sort of 2 days as minimum for, I don't know, year and a half maybe. Brad used to work with us, and so did Dan, so they probably remember when we went back. But I'm sure it was September 22, I think. So I think different trusts are struggling in different ways. I do think the resistance, Karen, I've not found the age thing. I know we've talked about this before. I found it depends on the individual, and some just don't want to come in and some do. I think the bit about catching up with the profession, I think that we've already, for me, I've seen that when I look at the applicants, when I go out to recruitment, the standard and the level of experience of, like, if you're recruiting a 6 or a band 6, 7, it's not what it used to be. And I don't know if some of that is because they've worked from home and they've been promoted the last few years. They've not had that, like, on-site experience and those examples that they can give. And again, I think it depends on the leadership of the individual team as well. So I think even at our trust, we all manage the teams differently and the expectations. And so how I've kind of managed my business partnering team is the management accountants all have face-to-face budget holder meetings and have done for some time. Once a month they'll be site specific because we're across sort of 5 sites, so they will go and schedule a day with all their budget holders once a month, so that they can see those. And I think that definitely does help. And then once a week the team, the finance business partnering team, are together. The 2 days a week is all of finance as well. So like when Anne was working with us, we were in financial accounts. So you get the interaction with the whole of finance, not just business partnering, and those kind of office conversations. And we still have been doing back to the floor as well, which is what we call kind of going out into the business and shadowing. So you've then got that experience of kind of how the business runs. And we do that all of finance, not just business partnering, so that anybody can understand kind of if they want to understand radiology or whatever it is. So I think there's quite a few differences, I think, between different trusts. I think at the moment for us, it seems to be working, but I do get the point, Karen, we don't have apprentices at the moment, and so I think that'll be different. We have placement students and that's been difficult with some of them, I have to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Richard, can't see you on this page, but I know you're on the second page.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, just it sounds like well, King's in the same sort of boat as you at the Royal Free in terms of there are people I could name that I haven't seen for 6 months. Equally, there's some that I don't think even go home at weekends when I go. But yeah, I just think overall we are limited by space. So because we have moved offices, I mean, you were there about a month ago, I think. So we have less desks now. So if everyone wanted to come in, it wouldn't be feasible. But we have tried to adopt like a 2 or 3 day a week rota system on the whole. But I do share your views with the young. I know when I was a bit younger and learning the ropes, to sit with your manager and, you know, just learning pivot tables and really what we now consider basic things. It's so much easier when you're there, and then going to meetings and shadowing. You sort of lose a lot of that. I don't think it works in the same way now. But equally, I think from the sort of team building perspective, just having a spontaneous lunch with 4 or 5 of you that you've just spoken to in the kitchen or going to the pub on a Friday night, and that seems to have faded quite a lot, and I think that's a real shame.
Thank you. Anne, before I comment, and just in summarising.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief because a lot of it is repeating what's been said here. But I think a lot of this is about businesses, not just in the NHS finance, but using this hybrid working as a retention tool to keep hold of staff and make it attractive for them to work there. And we're competing against people that might want to leave the sector and go and work for a company that's 100% home-based. You've got to think of the financial impact of that as well. They're paying the same salary and they haven't got to get on a train to get to work. It's or have that hour plus commute either way. That becomes difficult. So then if I attend to my colleagues that I'm on the call with here, I'm heaping people, say, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 1 day a week. We're not even consistent amongst London, and therefore it does become attractive as to which trust you might want to work for when we don't even have a consistent policy in London. And I think that's something we should be trying to move towards, is having some kind of consistent policy across London, and Paul and ourselves, one NHS finance. You know, if we want to be one, we need to be looking at aligning some of those basic things there, so we're not competing against each other, and it then becomes a choice in terms of career progression. One of the other things I want to talk about there is about leadership skills as well, and the fact that we aren't necessarily giving the people that are moving up through the ranks the correct leadership and coaching and mentoring skills for them to be able to manage a team hybridly, because it's a very, very different beast to manage a team that are working remotely. If you're having to have difficult conversations with poor performers or people that have been unwell that need additional support returning to work, etc. It's very, very difficult to do that. And when we're not, you know, I myself have had to educate myself as I go through that process. There are others that are taking that role less seriously, and that's just damaging on our entire workforce. So I think collectively we need to be looking at that, what we're putting in place. And about, we talked before about team development and well-being and just checking in on colleagues. It's increasingly difficult to do that if you don't see them from weeks on end. And I just want to, one of the things that was said earlier on was about the different types of finance people. Perhaps some people being allowed to work at home because they don't have that business partnering type role. I think actually it's crucial for all aspects of finance to be seen with each other and bring everyone together and to not distinguish between things. I found if I was sitting next to my income colleagues, I'd be picking up and hearing things that are actually really important to what I'm doing. I work in capital and investments. I need to work very closely with financial services, but I need to be out on the sites and seeing what's actually happening on the deliverability of schemes. So I think it's actually important, regardless of what department within finance you work in, we should be one finance.
Okay, thank you. Vicky?
Yeah, it was just on Anne's point, actually, the bit about we're not even all the same. I've been told, and it's not just ICB, CSU, but of London trusts that are not even going in every week, and finance business partnering as well. So I don't know if anybody's feeding back to the deputies meeting or the CFO meeting, but is there something like a minimum that you would actually expect, like everybody to be on site once a week as minimum, and then maybe we suggest we move towards 2 days or whatever the magic number is. But I think it goes back to when I've got colleagues saying, oh yeah, do you know that the ICB, they're only going in once a month? That'd be a great job, wouldn't it? That'll be the problem. And somebody told me about a trust in Norfolk, they only go in once a month, but the individual lives in London. So it does, you know, we're losing people out of our area. I'm not saying we can sort the whole country out. And then there is something about, and it goes back, Karen, to one of your earlier comments at another meeting about social side of it. You know, we do try and organise team lunches, so everybody's, I suppose, got something to look forward to. We know we're going out on that date, you know, every few months, and it's those kind of things, I think.
Thank you. Nick, your hand went up and went down again. Did someone cover your comment?
No, I'm showing this up on my screen. Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm new to this forum, by the way, so nice to meet everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. And yeah, I work for South East London ICB, and I see that a lot of the reps here are trust facing. So it's just one of the really interesting comments to listen to. I think the only other thing that I would say is because for ICBs we've had this running cost reduction. I'm sure you've probably heard about it, with the 30% running cost. So we've effectively, as part of that, we have actually downsized the office space quite significantly, and we are now on a, I mean, we do have quite a clear policy, so we have sort of mandated 1 day a week, which is monitored, but it's for specific teams because there isn't actually enough office capacity to get all staff in. So there's kind of like a set day for one team and then a set day for another. And yeah, within that team, there's people that are kind of happy with that. There's people that are less happy with that. Some people want to be in every day, but the communication from executives has been quite clear to be fair, so everybody knows the situation. But yeah, definitely hand was forced a bit by 30% of the budget coming out.
Thank you. So if I kind of summarize, I think what I'm hearing is that it's working well in some areas, it's not working so well in other areas. I think there is an impact with younger people and how we learn. There is definitely, I believe there's a generational gap. I know Vicky doesn't believe me, but I believe there absolutely is when I look at some things that are going on. I suppose the question is, we're going to probably have a little time for resilience, but I suppose the question is on hybrid working. Do you think it's something as a value maker group we should be recommended to try and mandate? Or do you think it just sits within HR and local HR arrangements? Because I think we need to have a minimum. And I'll give you an example. So I'm aware of organisations, including my own, where we've got people that work in financial management that just haven't come back. Everything seems to be on Teams, and we're now getting to the situation where actually our colleagues, in the clinical areas are actually complaining, I've never seen this person. Sometimes the camera's not even on, so I don't know who I'm speaking to. I don't know what's going on. And I know it's not just us, and maybe I'm not just talking about my organisation, but I know there's lots of examples of that. And I think it goes back to our previous report around talent management. Now everyone believes they're accountants because they can't find one, and they're all making decisions rightly or wrongly. So I'm just wondering, should there be some sort of guidance from us? Should there be something out there that says, actually, this should be a minimum moving forward? Or do you think we leave it to our HR colleagues to deal with it? What does anyone think? Oh, Vicky.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't. It was Catherine first.
Oh, sorry. So I didn't see that. Okay, Catherine, you just flashed up. You're on the second page. Sorry. Go on, Catherine.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I think this is such a thorny subject, isn't it?
It is.
And a number of you have got quite strong opinions, like across our teams. I think from my experience, and I'm sure it's similar across other trusts, the workforce or personnel departments have been not particularly forthcoming in very specific guidance on this. And I guess, like you say, it's just difficult with all the clinical teams, and even talking about it seems at a trust level. So I think it would be useful to have some sort of general guidance or hints and tips around how to actually work as a finance team remotely, because that's what we're all doing. But we don't have any sort of sharing of knowledge in that respect. And like you say, talking about apprentices and sort of young people, it's difficult because you don't want to be then singling out people that are young, whatever that is, and stuff, isn't it? So it's all very difficult. But yeah, I think something would be useful. And even as you say, like turning on, do we all say, well, you turn on your camera, or, you have a certain background, or all, just even that we haven't got consistency on. I'm not sure we'll really ever get to a certain number of days which we're all across London agreed on. We can kind of perhaps agree what we try to aim for, but I think if we focus on that too much, I mean, we should try to be kind of broadly similar, obviously. I think if we focus on that too much, we'll lose everything else.
I agree. Vicky?
Yeah, it was just a similar point to Catherine. Our HR department wouldn't make a decision. They said it was up to finance, and this is going back when we kind of returned September 22, I think. So that's where we tried to do a bit of benchmarking, but everybody was quite different. So that's where the 2 days came from. I think we started at 1 and then built to 2.
So I think Charlie and I think what I'm hearing is that it'd be really nice if we can do some work around what we think is maybe some research and come up with some recommendations on what we think hybrid working should look like moving forward. Because it is very difficult in London for all sorts of reasons. I think, if I'm honest, the only thing I'm not sure I agree with is that financial accounts and business partners should be in because they're focused and they're forward facing. All of our cashiers have been in every single day and have been. They didn't, COVID, we didn't close the cashier's office. They're one of the most junior people in the team. And I just kind of feel, well, if they can do it at band 3s and band 4s, I think all the other functions should be in as well. And in our trust, as an example, we do try to have them. So, financial accounts can speak to the income, can speak to management accounts, can speak to AR and AP. We do have that sort of arrangement going on. But it'd be really good if we did some sort of work, Charlie and Co, just to see, what we can come up with as to what we think is good, because it's not working. And you're right, there are people moving around the business or around our organisations based on how they can work, as opposed to anything else. And I'm not quite sure. We need some level of consistency to stop that, actually, because that's the reason why people are moving, because I can stay at home 4 days a week as opposed to staying at home 3 days a week. The other side of it actually builds on resilience and health and wellbeing, which we can have a quick discussion now, because my concern is if you're at home home all the time. You know, we've had an instance of in London of suicide and people having real serious mental health issues, because actually when people work at home, you do have to be a bit more nosier. You do need to know about their lifestyle and what's going on in their house and what's going on in their home. So we've had instances of that. And my concern is, you know, especially people that come on and do not turn their camera on, you know, your face can give a lot of things away. And I think since COVID, finance have recognised that they do have a duty of care responsibility to the people that we employ. And I think that's the thing I'm concerned about with people that are at home all the time. You know, we don't know what's going on. If you don't see them, you don't really get that time to have a conversation. And I've got quite a few examples across London where, because we didn't show that duty of care, terrible things have happened to people. So I don't know, you know, how that responsibility comes into, you know, because that's the bit we need to think about as well. It's not just about do your work and go home like we used to in the good old days. It's about, well, you're working from home. We are responsible for you at home. What do we do to ensure that your health and well-being at home is in the right place? And just to give you an example, you know, we've had people that was sofa surfing that committed suicide. We've had examples, this is London, not my trust. We've had people, you know, that have domestic situations that actually they need to be in the office 5 days a week to get away with what they need to get. You know, it's all these other things that actually have come out because of COVID that we would never be aware of beforehand. And I just wonder how we're taking those things into consideration when we actually start to mandate. So within our trust, we mandate you need to be in the office at least 2 days a week, but there's quite a proportion of them that come in every day for all sorts of reasons, right? So, you know, and we've had to give that level of flexibility. Anyway, over to you, Vicky.
Yeah, no, just going to say similar. We said that actually for those people that wanted to come in for mental health reasons or whatever, because they live alone, that they could come in every day, but we have the space. So I do recognise that some trusts are very short on space, but then it's we've got a responsibility to those people. If they want to come in every day, and that was originally what their contract was, that we need to be able to facilitate that, and I don't know how we get around that.
Thank you. Anything else for anything else? Okay, so hybrid working, I think there was something there. Is there anything anyone wants to say about resilience? I think I kind of touched it right at the beginning, which is, you know, given our financial position in London, given the financial position of the NHS, you know, there is a higher level of making sure that our teams, especially, and it's not just our colleagues in financial management, it's our colleagues across the organisation. I think about AP team actually, where they've been threatened, you know, by some theatre staff. If you don't do this, that means we can't do someone's operation. You need to get that invoice paid now, you know, to a band 3, right? So we've had those examples. So there is something about resilience I think we need to do. So does anyone have any thoughts about resilience or things that they think we could be doing better? More training, anything? Nothing? We think we're good at it? You don't want to say? Go Vicky. You want to start today?
So we're going to start picking it up, setting up a health and wellbeing group. So Anne used to work Imperial, and she was superstar and did sort of led that regular sort of catch-ups, bulletins, etc. And so we've had that missing gap since then. But we're going to, I think, do a theme every month, do kind of a drop-in for people that want to attend. And if you've not been on the health and wellbeing champion training, it was really good. I pinched lots of ideas from other people, but that being one of them, and probably resilience will be kind of one of those focuses as well.
Thank you. Sarah, are you speaking today?
Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah Raymond. I'm excellent at saying Helly. I don't really say very much at these things, so I thought I'd say something resilience.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just a couple of points. So we've talked a lot about resilience as part of the internal health and wellbeing group that we're trying to set up within finance. And you know, a lot of the comments are about you only talk about resilience as if it's in a negative way when you're under stress, and then you're told, oh, well, maybe you should go get some resilience training. And actually what was really interesting was in the Health and Wellbeing Conference in January this year, there was a session on resilience, and I think it's got to be the best session on resilience I've ever come across. And it was a really good way of explaining it, it had a really different approach. So fortunately the recording for that isn't available, but I don't know if we can somehow get the slides from the person that presented or wherever, but that was a really good session. I think that would be really useful. But yeah, in terms of how we approach kind of discussing resilience and training and not having it just as a kind of in a negative way, but having a really positive approach at it. I think that's going to be quite key.
Okay, thank you very much. Margin?
Hi, brilliant. It's
Hi.
working.
Yes, there you go. Hello.
It's fine. I think we need balance, you know, and I think that's what everyone's talking about, and that goes the same with resilience as well. If people cannot have 1 hour, 3 hours traveling to work every single day, that helps with people's resilience. And I think, like Sarah was saying, it's not really that negative thing of, oh, well, you know, toughen up, you need to be more resilient. No, if we treat people nicely, if people's well-being is there, which therefore helps their happiness, their mental health, the resilience will be part of that. And that's an awful lot about the balance of whether you're in the office or not. And I do agree, if somebody wants to be in the office 5 days a week, trusts and providers should absolutely be trying to do that. You know, it's not really good enough to say, well, I'm sorry, but we had to save money, so there's nowhere to sit anymore. I know it's very difficult in ICBs at the moment. They've had to lose 30%. I can't go and sit in my office all the time now, necessarily if everybody came in, but there are other areas I can sit in. You know, we've got very large divisions. There must be somewhere, particularly in trusts. I don't know for the ICBs, that might be much harder, but if somebody does come and say, I want 5 days a week, then that in turn will help their resilience. I think it really is about balance and not mandating what people have to do above a minimum, and then being careful to do what helps, because one size is not going to fit everybody.
Absolutely. You know, so I know there's some diehard people to say, I'm sorry, but before 2020, before COVID, we came in every single day. You know, we weren't responsible for people's childcare arrangements. We didn't care what your commute was. You chose that organisation. And we still have people that have that opinion. It's like, you chose to work here. That's your organisation. You know, your contract, your employment contract, which is the strongest contract in the world, says you need to be in the office. And actually, because of whatever, we're doing what we're doing. But it's kind of working it through, because I think one of the things that quite a few organisations in London tried to do in the beginning when COVID happened was remove people's London waiting. Do you not all remember that? You're not coming in anymore, we're going to make a savings, right? So and that was chopped really. So I think there is some sort of halfway house that we need to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to support people the best way we can, but recognising that they're employed to do a job. They're not employed to worry about, you know, and I think our organisation is brilliant. So we're very flexible around, well, if you're doing a school run now, okay, fine, let's be flexible around your hours, but you need to be open and aware about all these sorts of things. And it's very difficult to manage with a big team. Sonal, sorry. Sorry.
That's all right.
I do know your name.
So no, just echoing. So we have definitely, we've got an away day planned for July, and there is going to be a focus on health and wellbeing and resilience. And speaking to the Trust health and wellbeing team, it's really become apparent that, as Sarah I think mentioned before, the resilience piece is kind of thought as negative. That, you know, and so we're really trying to be very careful that we're not saying, you know, you just have to kind of deal with certain things, and it shouldn't be portrayed in that way, because it will become very, I guess, upsetting and controversial to the rest of the team, where especially the pressures and, you know, just what finance are dealing with as a department generally, they are facing a lot of external pressures, and finance is often, I want to say quite demonized, but in some ways, you know, that they're feeling a lot of that from external services and so on. So I haven't got a solution, but we are thinking very carefully about how we can promote that level of resilience, and how, you know, tips and tools that they could potentially implement where it can perhaps become overwhelming at times, and how to deal with those things going forward. But yeah, it is something that's definitely, I think, more people should be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so hopefully you heard that, Charlie. I'm not quite sure we need to think about what we could possibly do, because I know there's a lot of stuff out there, and maybe it's just really about researching what other organisations are doing and maybe putting some sort of pack, because, as I said, depending on the organisation you are, depends on what you can and can't get. Oh, Simon, your hand's back up. Sorry, I thought it went down. What would you like to say? Sorry.
It went down because there's the Health and Wellbeing Network that Sheikh chairs, I think we can pick some of this up there. But there's something about signposting. I remember seeing something shared in one of the regional NHS England meetings where things like financial hardships, there were like a whole slides for some of our junior members of staff or other members of staff groups who are encountering difficulties, who they can talk to, and various, maybe something like that as a pack for the finance community in London, i.e. Mental health related stuff. Here is a number of areas that you can explore some of this stuff. One thing I know is that some acute trusts are really, really good at this. Some of the larger acute trusts where they have various support mechanisms, but there's something about pulling this for the London finance community in some kind of pack available to everyone, because sometimes you may not want to approach services within your own organization, and that this could be a vehicle for accessing other support mechanisms elsewhere to support health and well-being and resilience within the London network. Just a thought.
No, I think it's a really good thought, because you're right, the big organisations do. So I know most people seem to know about Care First. I think most organisations have kind of signed into that programme. There was a lot of things around financial support for junior grade, and then we fell in love, the tax man wanted his cut of it, so that didn't go down very well. But there are lots of things out there and other ways that we can do to support people. Okay, Johannes, the last word is you, then we're going to move on. I'm conscious of time, and I do want to give Charlie some time to talk about the updates. Off you go.
Yeah, no, just wanted to reflect. I think there's probably 3 types of resilience. So there's kind of the personal resilience, whether it's for folks who kind of have financial challenges or working from home or whatever it might be. Then there's kind of team resilience. Different teams are under different pressures. And then as a function, as things get tighter and tighter as a function, we need to kind of think about resilience. So I almost wonder whether it's about kind of segmenting in those 3 areas, and obviously differently, depending on what kind of leadership position we have. It's about kind of supporting that resilience. And some of it's about providing support, and some of it's about saying, listen, it is tough, and listen, people are going to be upset, but it's not your individual fault. We're going to get through it together, right? So resilience is quite a thorny or complicated area, but I think in my head, certainly it's those 3 areas. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Listen, guys, thank you all for that. That's really, really useful conversation around hybrid working and resilience. I think it's really important that we kind of express this out and see what we can do within One NHS Finance if we can, because I'm conscious that IT department, HR departments in the bigger organisations already have, some of them do, some of them already have something in place. But thank you very much for that. So we're not going to have any other business, because I know there wasn't any other business. So Charlie, it's all over to you to let us know about the Finance Academy updates, please. Thank you.
So I've just got a couple of quick ones, so shouldn't take too long. So I just wanted to mention that registrations have now opened for the upcoming HMA Academy and SDN London Annual Conference for 2024. So the conference is taking place on the 10th of October in London, and the focus of this year's conference will be Collaborate to Innovate. We'll be delivering a diverse programme including keynote speakers, plenary facilitators, and a series of development workshops. Furthermore, this year's conference will once again include an award ceremony, drinks reception, and gala dinner, providing an opportunity to celebrate the hard work and achievements of colleagues across London. So the London Finance Academy will once again be subsidising 1 free ticket for each organisation, and the Skills Development Network will also be offering a limited amount of free places to Band 2 to 6 colleagues as well. And then all additional tickets can be purchased at an Academy discounted rate on the HMO website. And then just to mention that the applications for the Return to Work programme close at the end of the month. So the primary goal of this programme is for colleagues to receive support to help them to have a successful transition back to work following parental leave. So colleagues will be invited to an introductory meetup followed by monthly support sessions and development workshops over a 6-month period, including topics such as NHS updates, return stories, confidence building, and career development. And this year's programme will run virtually from June till October. So if you have any colleagues that may be suitable for the programme, please do tell them to get in touch. And that's all from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Charlie. Look at that. On time, giving you back some time, a whole 5 minutes. Is there anything else for anything else? I found the session today really, really useful, actually. So, let's see what we can do collectively as a team. So just to recap, just remember where we are on the development programs. Let's just try and be positive to our colleagues at work that, yes, it is difficult. There's lots of things around hybrid working, resilience, all those things going on, but there is a development program to develop yourself and move on and move up in your career. I think there's something about the bigger organisations supporting those smaller organisations to make sure that, what we do is open and equitable for everybody within finance within London, because I know it isn't. But thank you for your time. Any ideas and suggestions, feel free to send it in to me or to Charlie. All right, and we'll see what we can do about making these sessions really impactful for you all. So thank you again for all your time. And see you again. I don't